Friends, in this video, we would be dealing with Old English literature, which is also called the Anglo-Saxon literature. Why? Because there are some tribes like Angles, Saxons, and the Jutes, and they come from different parts of the world and settle in England. So their time period is between 450 AD to 1066 until the Norman conquest happens uh, during 1066 AD, and they produce literature which is completely oral in form, and it was later written by monks and the educated classes. And we also see that your language was Old English and various other Germanic languages. And literature of this age reflects English life, your belief, struggle, and the social values. Moving towards next, there are some historical and cultural backgrounds as when Roman withdraw, then Anglo-Saxon comes and they start a new society, a new culture, and your society was mostly on warrior based, uh, and they had some strong social codes, and most of the people were pagan, but due to the emergence of this Anglo-Saxon period, Christianity comes, and then people started converting into the Christianity. Uh, because of less education and other facilities, only the kings and monasteries were the center of learning. And we also see that there are some wars, there are some exile and insecurity that also reflect in literature. So during the Anglo-Saxon period, poetry is dominated, and in poetry we see the Beowulf, a famous long epic about heroism and about the killing of monster Grendel and its fame throughout the England. Beowulf is the important one because it is written by an anonymous writer, and it is still preserved and translated in various other languages. We also see the Wanderer. It's an elegy on the exile, loneliness, and the wisdom. And we also see the famous poem, The Seafarer. It's about a section of society who doesn't believe on God earlier, but after suffering, they started believing on God and faith. Then we see the wife's lament. It's another famous elegy. Here, a wife laments on the absence of her husband, and we also see the Dior, the Rune, the Widsith. These are some famous poems written during Anglo-Saxon period, and we also see that a major portion of literature is religious and biblical, biblical in nature. And most of the poetry, like Sideman's hymn, which are written for the uh, praise and admiration of God, and they are later recorded and translated by monks into Old English. We also see the Cynewulf, and Cynewulf is only a writer who's known by the name during Anglo-Saxon period, and his famous masterpieces like Juliana, Alan, Christ, the Fates of Apostle are the well known. We also see the biblical phrases and from Genesis and Exodus are important during Anglo-Saxon period, and poetry of this age used to teach Christian values, their standards, and their livelihoods, and it it also combines the Christian faith with heroic style. And then comes the period of King Alfred the Great. And this period is famous. Why? Because this is the period when most of the literature is produced, and King Alfred started translating the literature into the Old English and other vernacular languages. And it is also famous because King Alfred the Great promoted learning and education in England. He also translated pastoral care and the consolation of philosophy, and he also initiated and supported a group in translating and recording the ecclesiastical history and Anglo-Saxon chronicles. And this translation and the learning helped and spreaded the education beyond the clergy in England. Then we also see that there are some dominant themes and literary features in Anglo-Saxon period. For example, heroism, courage, and the loyalty. It is found in Beowulf, and then we also see the fate and the God's will. We also see exile, suffering, and the transience nature of life. And during poetry of this age uses some techniques like alliteration, like caesura, like caning. As you can see that alliteration is the repetition of consonant word in the successive letters of uh, the words in a sentence. For example, here, boldly the brave man battled. Here, the sound of B is consistently and regularly repeated in the sentence. It makes the alliteration. Then we see the caesura. Caesura here, the famous line, the hero spoke, then the hall fell silent. And in this line, you would see that these two lines are breaking the sense of the sentence. Here are two different sense, combined and put together. So these lines are called caesura. Then we also see the kenning. Kenning are the compound noun or compound metaphors which are used in the poetry. For example, the whale road for the sea, like the ring giver for any king, like the moon stars for the sun. So these are some compound nouns which are used in the literature of the Anglo-Saxon period, and mostly the literature of this age is serious, reflecting, and elegiac in tone. So let us conclude this video with the one-liners that Old English literature is the foundation of English literature, because whole the literature which we are studying today in universities or the colleges has foundation there. Then we also see that Beowulf is one of the oldest English epic, and it is the most famous, which is important till today. Then we also see that literature of Anglo-Saxon, mostly comprised of the poetries, and then the famous figure King Alfred the Great, who started the translation of English prose, is sometimes called as the father of English prose. And we also see that the literature of that age reflects a blend of paganism and the Christian values.